Splinter!
Yes, Urokusaki. I know who you are. We met many years ago in the home of my master, Homato Yoshi.
It's him.
Now I will finish what I began with your ear. Death comes for us all, Urokusaki. But something much worse comes for you. For when you die, it will without honor.
C.S. Lewis said, "There is no fault which makes a man more unpopular, and no fault which we are more unconscious of in ourselves. And the more we have it in ourselves, the more we dislike it in others." The fault that C.S. Lewis is speaking of is pride. Man, I really loved the Ninja Turtles growing up. I always played around with my friends. We goofed around on the playground. I was either Raphael or Michelangelo. In this particular clip, what we see that Shredder is upset. He looks at Splinter and he recognizes him as this rat, this guy who's horrible. You know, he's comparing himself to him. And he's saying, you know, you're not, I'm so much better than you. Who are you to do this to me? And his pride takes over, this idea that he's so much greater and so much of a better being than Splinter. And so he decides to attack him. And this pride leads to revenge and it leads to hate. And so he goes after Splinter. Then Splinter does a little ninja chuck thing and nunchuck thing and twirls him off the building. And then Shredder's kind of hanging on. And instead of humbling himself, instead of saying, "Hey, I can't do this, I need help, you're right, you win, I'm wrong," he then tries to kill him anyway, even though he's hanging off of the building. And so all Splinter does is have to let go of the nunchuck, because if he doesn't, he's going to get his hand cut. And Shredder ends up dying. His pride ends up killing him. Pride's a powerful thing. We sometimes use it as a means to become better at things. You know, we'll use it as a motivation to study harder, to work harder, to try harder. But as we do that, this pride is implanting itself inside of us, and it's growing big, and it's growing strong, and it's making us the kind of person we never wanted to become. 1 John 2:16 says, "For all that is in the world, the desire of the flesh, the desire of the eyes, and pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world." Pride of life. From the world, it leads to sin in our lives. As a matter of fact, the first sin we see, the scene where Eve eats the fruit, is a product of her pride. Remember Genesis chapter 3, 4, and 5. "You will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat this fruit, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve, you want to be like God? Okay, well just eat this fruit, and then you'll be like Him. You know, pride is showing itself in wanting to be like God, wanting to be better than we think we are, wanting others to think we're better. It creeps in and it produces sin. Pride often shows itself in comparisons. When we see somebody, we measure ourselves with them, right? We say, "Oh, well, I'm taller than them, I'm stronger than them, I'm smarter than them, I'm better at this, I'm better at that, I have nicer clothes, I have a nicer car." You know, why do we want to have all these nice things? Why do we want to have the best car? Why do we want to have the best clothes? Why do we want to be popular? Because we want people to think that we're great. We want people to think that we are the best. We want people to think that we are better than others. I would like to end with this. A summary of the book of Romans. I know you guys are all super excited about this, but the Romans is actually an amazing book. So what's going on historically is the Christians are causing the disturbance in Rome. They're going to the synagogues and preaching and teaching, and they're getting there all these conflicts riled up, and it's causing lots of disturbances in Rome. And so Claudius, the Roman emperor of the time, doesn't know how to handle it, so he decides he can't make a distinction between the Jewish Christians and the Christians Because in his mind, Christianity is just a part of Judaism, just like a sect of Judaism. So what he does is he kicks all the Jews out of Rome. All the Jews have to leave Rome for a 5-year period. Now after Claudius dies, the new emperor comes in place, the Jews are allowed to come back in. But what we have is the Rome has now become a completely Gentile church for 5 to 6 years. And so when these Jews come back in town, the Jews now start to join the church again. And there's this conflict between the Gentile Christians, the non-Jewish Christians, and the Jewish Christians. The Jewish Christians are like, we're the better Christians because we are actually God's chosen people. God has used us throughout history to bring salvation to the world. We are greater Christians. We are the real Christians. The Gentiles are like, no, we're the better Christians because we didn't kill Jesus. You killed Jesus. You are obviously not the better Christians. Paul writes this unifying letter to the Jewish Christians and the Gentile Christians, letting them know that neither one of them are better. They're both lost without Christ. They're both saved within Christ. And so nobody is better than anybody. There's no room for pride in Christianity, and there's no room for pride in ministry. It's a big work, it's a large work, and it's going to take all of us to get the work done. And there's no reason for us to bicker about who is greater and who is not so great. Because inside of Christ we're saved and outside of Christ we're lost. We're all better in Christ. We're all worse outside of Christ. Know your enemy. Pride. It convinces you that you can do it on your own. That you can achieve salvation without God. It pushes God away. Recognize this. Recognize its grip on your life. And flee from it.
God, I love